Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. I am Tony Lynch. I am the host of this podcast, and we are your number one podcast for bring you conversation around death, dying, and grief, and all the messiness that comes in between it, with some amazing people who not only talk the talk, but walk the walk, and out here doing some amazing things. And you guys already know I have another amazing guest for you guys today. And now, before I get started, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to their YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And we are live streaming across all platforms today. So, bring your questions and comments, put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. Now, without further ado, you guys help me welcome my next guest. Anthony Price, Token Squid, to the podcast. Brother, how we doing?
It's so good. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you very much for making a space for me to come onto your program. And for entertainment purposes only. I mean, nobody's ever been entertainer before.
Everybody's in for a treat today, man. We had a blast talking the last time. We just had a great conversation, laughed, got to go on some pretty spectacular journeys and everything else. Now, before we get started, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
My name is Token Squid. I'm a biker, and I ride all over the country. That's the uber short version of what's going on. I'm the executive director of an organization called the Gold Star Ride Foundation. The Gold Star Ride Foundation is a 501c3 charity organization recognized by the IRS, and our business is taking care of immediate family members of somebody who's killed in the military. Gold Star families. That's the definition of a Gold Star family. And we go visit them all in person on a motorcycle all over the country.
Man, thank you for the work that you do. And as always, man, thank you for your service as well. Right? So many families definitely.
Thank you for being an American worth fighting for.
Oh, man, again, you know what I'm saying? The things goes both ways, brother. I told you, we can do this all day long, man. It goes both ways, man. That definitely goes both ways, man. So, explain to the audience, you know what I'm saying? How did you get into this work, man?
How did I get into this work? Well, I was out for a motorcycle ride and I fell into it. That's a really, 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 really short version, but that's basically what happened. I've been a motorcycle enthusiast since Richard Nixon was popular. Okay, wrap your head around that for a minute. Yes, there was a time he was popular. A lot of people forget he was actually reelected by the second largest landslide in the history. He was popular in from 68 to 72. And sometime in there is where I started riding motorcycles. And about 13, 14 years ago, some guys came up to me and said, "Hey, you're a vet. You like to ride motorcycles. We're doing a ride tomorrow. Why don't you come with us?" And I said, I'm all for it. I'll jump in right into the pack. I'll be like motorcycle number 72 cruising down the road. And I just ride. We're just going to go for a ride. And on that particular ride, that particular day, we stopped in front of somebody's house. And that person who lived in the house was brought out into the yard. Everybody was standing around the yard, all these bikers, about 75 or 80 of us, leather vests, long hair, bandanas, tattoos, cigarettes dangling, earrings, the smell of burnt oil, all of these things that make up 75 or 80 bikers standing in somebody's front yard while we hear the story of how this woman became a Gold Star widow. She was a young lady. She lost her husband after only being married a couple of years. And she was looking at being a welfare mom. And this group of bikers all just opened up their wallets and put her back to college, paid for her college education. And they said, this is it for me. The day before that motorcycle ride, I did not know what a Gold Star family was. And after that ride, I said, I'm going to be doing something for Gold Star families for the rest of my life. I just kind of made that decision. So I rode with that group for about 3 years. And after that, I came to them one day and the organizers of that group, and I said, what we're doing here is pretty neat, pretty important work. But there's a lot more than 3 Gold Star families in the state of Minnesota. We're going to have to go national. We're going to have to break it away and go national. And they all burst into laughter, slapped me on the back and said, it'll never happen. You'll never do a national ride for Gold Star families. Well, let's cut to the chase a little bit here. 3 months ago, I finished ride number 62 in 6 years. I have now ridden my motorcycle 4 Gold Star families, more than 141,000 miles. I've been in all 48 of the lower states at least 4 times each, and I have personally met with 540 Gold Star families. Ride number 63 is coming up in March. Ride number 64 is coming up in April. And after ride number 64, I think the number of Gold Star families is going to be somewhere in the 560, 570 mark. Best way to get me to get something done is tell me it'll never happen.
Isn't that the truth? You know?
Yeah,
isn't that the truth? It's like challenge accepted.
Yeah, and you know,
make this happen.
The other thing that goes hand in hand with that is, you know, you think you got an idea. You think you got an idea. You think you know how something is going to work out. You think, for me, for example, I'm a biker, and I think I'm just going to ride my motorcycle, and I'm going to have a great time, and I'm going to say hi to some really nice people, and I'll shake hands, and I'll move along down the road, and I'll just be riding that motorcycle.
Yeah.
No, there are bigger plans in the works than what our little feeble little imaginations can come up with. I've got over 500 people that I call close personal friends. There are, I have come to understand it, that the best way that I can describe meeting that many people who have lost somebody in the military is that I've been to that many funerals. So, I mean, let's do the math real quick. I've been doing it 6 years. I've met with 540 Gold Star families. That's 90 families a year. That's 2 a week. Twice a week, I'm going to another funeral. On average. That's a lot of grief I have to figure out a brand new way to deal with that I had never thought that I was going to encounter.
Right. So you've also had your own challenges as well, right? You've had your own.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know, if I wasn't
about that with the audience,
if I wasn't pulling a wagon filled with grief, I would never know how to handle grief when I met it on the road.
Exactly.
I've been handed a whole bunch of stuff that demonstrates that life isn't fair. We can all say that now, right? We're all pretty sure we understand there's no such thing as fairness in this life. And anybody who says that they're after something just because it's fair, you need to go bark up a different tree. Life isn't fair. It just isn't. I recently was introduced to the story of the guy in Texas who was executed for. They said he was executed because he killed his 3 little children. And after he was executed, they come to find out that the evidence was incorrect and the witnesses were lying, and he never did kill his children.
Wow.
You can't tell him life is fair.
Right.
That it doesn't work that way. The best we can do is try to make adjustments so that we can find new ways to tolerate it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to deal with an awful lot of that stuff. One of the things that I think qualifies me, boy, there's a big word, you got to use it really carefully. One of the things that qualifies me to go visit all these Gold Star families is some of the unfairness that I had to deal with when my children's mother decided she didn't want to be married to me anymore.
Right.
And all the things that happened because of that. The short version here, and we kind of need to try to keep this in a short version. The short version is my job was to stay at home and take care of the kids. That was my job. Stay at home, take care of the kids. My wife had the job my children's mother had the job of getting on an airplane and taking care of the airline passengers as they flew around the United States. She slept in hotels a lot. I was at home alone with the kids a lot. And that was a job that I had done for about 3 years and 2 months when I thought she got on an airplane and she went to take care of some stuff. But no, she didn't. What she did instead was she took a taxi to the kids' schools and walked in and took the kids out and then went into hiding.
Wow.
And the court battle that ensued The best way I can put it, I often tell people the story this way. I say, you know what, if you would go to a movie theater and you watch a movie of everything that happened to me with my kids, you would walk out of that movie theater saying that could never happen in the United States.
Right.
But it did, because guess what? Hello, I'm here to tell you the story. It happened to me. I did not get to see my children without a court-ordered supervisor that costs $100 an hour for 5 years. For 5 years, and there was at some point, I was into this. I went from being the guy who tucked them into bed literally every night of their lives to it's illegal for me to send them a text message on a telephone. Illegal. If I send them a text message, she calls the police come get me, and they throw my ass in jail. That's how bad things got.
Wow.
And, I knew that she was an abusive mother, and I knew that there was nobody there to protect my kids. And after some period of time, I think it was a couple of years of not being able to sleep, not being able to eat, I looked in the mirror, my hair, and see this beautiful blonde hair? It all turned white.
Wow.
It all turned white, just like my beard. And now I tell people, I say, yeah, you see this gray in my beard? I earned every one of those. I earned every one of them. But anyway, one day I looked in the mirror and that looked like, I looked like it was kind of amazing that I was even upright. I was in such bad physical condition. And all this long blonde hair was white. It was all white. And I looked in the mirror and I decided that I needed to recognize that my kids were already dead. I don't tell very many people this story, but this is the grief podcast, so we gotta explore everything that got us to where we are today, right?
Right, exactly.
So I looked in the mirror and I said, well, I have to accept the fact that they are already dead, because you know what? If she would have lost her temper and swiped the 7-year-old boy, if she'd have hit him alongside the face or the head, and he would have fallen down that flight of steps and broke his neck on the way down, and there would have been a funeral. If I would have attended that funeral, I would have been arrested. I would have been arrested if I would have attended. As a matter of fact, I asked the law enforcement, I asked the sheriff, I said, look, they got this crap going on against me here that's all built on lies. Everything's built on lies. What happens if my worst fear comes to light and she kills one of them kids? What happens if I go to the funeral? He said, don't go to that funeral. You'll be arrested. They'll throw your ass in jail. Okay, so I can't even go to the funeral anyway. So it took a while. There was a lot of solitude. There was about 4 or 5 days of trying to wrap my head around this notion that they were already dead. And the courts were doing their thing. I was fighting in the court every chance I could. I was arguing with somebody else about how wrong it was for my children to be taken away from me. And at every turn, the court officials that they put me in touch with guardian ad litem, attorneys for her. I think there was 5 different court appointed people whose job it was to assess and determine whether or not I should ever have any time with my kids again and all this stuff. And I have to go meet with all these people, and I recorded everything, and I can still play them for you, and you can see how they listen to me tell the story, and the story says I should be with my kids, and then they go to the court and they report to the judge and they say, we're pretty sure he's going to hurt his kids. Can't let him be with his kids anymore. He's going to hurt them kids. And after I came to the conclusion, after I wrapped my head around the notion that my children were already dead, I ended up in one of these meetings with one of these court-appointed people whose job it was to determine whether or not I should have any time with my kids. And I'm going to apologize in advance for the language, but if I clean up the language, it's going to lose some of its impact.
Yeah, no apologies needed. This is
so this woman is sitting behind her desk, and we're in the office, and the office is in the courthouse, and it's all there. And she says, why should I let you see your kids? This is 5 years later, 5 years after my kids were taken from me. And I looked at her and I said, I don't give a fuck what you do. You can't hurt me anymore. And she said, oh, I guess we can let you start seeing your kids. We'll do it slowly at first, but in a month you'll have them every other weekend for the whole weekend. And so that was what she was waiting for me to say. You can't hurt me anymore.
Yeah.
And then they allowed me to have my kids. Now, I just communicated with my daughter this morning. She's 20 years old now. It's been a while since all this happened. Yeah. I talked to my son already today, too. He lives on the other side of the country, but he's a college graduate, and he moved to the other side of the country so he could get away from his mother. So, and he's 22. He'll be 23 in a couple months. And he and I had a nice conversation this morning already. We're still getting along great. So I managed to build some sort of a bridge to make it all happen again. But the big element here is that I did wrap my head around the notion that my kids were already dead. And I think that gave me a special mindset. It gave me a special way of thinking, so that when I go meet a stranger, and of the people that I go meet, most of them are parents who lost a child. Most of the people that I meet are Gold Star moms and Gold Star dads, and their son or daughter was killed in action, or killed in this, or killed in that. Their son or daughter was killed in the military. But that's not all I meet. I also meet, I met a Gold Star son once. Boy, I remember this one like it was yesterday. I met him last year. And we're having a great conversation. We're just talking. Everything is organic when I go meet these families. There's nothing planned. There's nothing. It's just, hi, you're a stranger. I've never met you before. We're going to sit down and see where the conversation goes.
All right.
And we were just talking for like a half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. And he was sitting with me with his new wife. They'd been married for a year. And this is the son of a man who died in the Marines, of a Marine who was killed. Mm-hmm. The Marine had been dead for 10 years. His wife didn't know anything about the fact that his father was killed in the Marine Corps. He didn't share that with his wife at all. And somehow the conversation turned, and I said, to me, it's really great that I get an opportunity to honor the child of somebody who gave their life for our freedom. Right. Because so often it's the child who gives their life for, but so I'm talking to somebody whose father lost their life. And just as quick as I could say that sort of a statement, everything went really quiet. And I was sitting across the table from him, and I looked at his eyes, and his eyes just welled up with tears, really, really big. And it was like, we were laughing and joking. And then all of a sudden, and he didn't say anything. He just got up and left. He just walked right out of the restaurant. And I looked at his wife and I said, this is the first that you're learning about this, that his father was a Marine who gave up his life? She said, yeah, I didn't know anything about it. And I said, we're going to give him about 30 seconds, maybe a full minute, maybe even a minute and a half. And then I'm going to ask you to wait here at the table while I go get him. And that's exactly what happened. And I walk outside and I go out in the parking lot. I find the guy, he's on the other end of the parking lot. And he's just crying like mad. And I walked up to him and I said, this is something you get to own this for the rest of your life. I said, I have no idea what he's going through. He didn't open up to me at all. I said, but you get to own this. The feeling that you have right now, you get to own it and you get to keep it. And nobody can ever, ever take it away from you. And he looked at me and he said, no one has ever, in the 10 years since my dad lost his life, no one has ever approached me and said anything about what I'm going through. So that was kind of his little grief thing. We ended up hugging and talking in the parking lot without his wife for about 25 minutes. And that we ended up spending like 6 hours together. We spent a long time together. Yeah. And we went back to laughing and joking and finding a good way to handle that grief. But the point of it all is that sometimes we don't even know that we're dealing with grief.
Right.
In this case, we got somebody who's been for 10 years. He's been walking around. Yeah, my dad died in the Marine Corps, and nobody ever told him that it was okay for him to grieve. Nobody ever told him that it was even a possibility.
Yeah.
So this is the stuff that I went through with the courts and losing my kids. I think that gives me a place where I can start a conversation with somebody else who lost somebody that was close to them. It's really easy for me to get sidetracked and get into, my favorite groups. I shouldn't really say my favorite because we're talking about such a grief-ridden subject matter. But it means a great deal to me. It means the most to me when I get to talk to brothers and sisters, people who lost their brother or their sister. It was almost a year ago, March or April last year. I was riding through Texas, and I go to meet a Gold Star mom down there in Texas. And we spent an hour and a half together. It was all wonderful and fine and good. And then this kid walks in. I should be careful how I call him a kid. He stood like 6'2", probably weighed about 250 pounds. This kid walks in, and he's carrying some bags of food. And he said, "Look, I brought everybody dinner." And I said, "Oh, hi, who are you?" And he introduces himself, and he says, "The fallen hero was my brother." I said, "He was your brother?" "Yeah, he was my older brother." And I said, "Sit down here. I need to talk to you. We need to learn a little bit about each other. I get to tell you how important it is that I'm here for you, because you lost the guy that was teaching you algebra. You lost the guy that was teaching you how to talk to girls. You lost the guy that was teaching you how to catch a football. You lost the guy that was teaching you how to hold a baseball bat so you could get that home run. You lost somebody very, very important in your life." And he said, again, it was the same kind of deal. His mother pulled me aside after the visit was done, and she said, "Nobody has ever talked to my son like that." So that's the when we get to talk about the grief stuff, and we have a lot of fun with it too.
Yeah.
Grief is not only tears.
Yeah.
There's I know two families are different, but this is just, the first Gold Star family that I met was a Gold Star widow. She was, I don't know, I suppose she was about 28, 29 years old. And she lost her husband, who was her high school sweetheart. And then she was stuck with two little kids, and she was going to be raising them by herself. And she was looking at being a welfare mom because that was all she had. The plan that her and her husband had together was he was going to do his stint in the Army. And when he came home from the Army, then she would do her stint in college and work on her career. Mm-hmm. Because he was killed before he came home, that plan didn't come together. So when I met him with all of these bikers that we met that day that were there, they all opened up their wallets. I didn't know what a Gold Star family was the day before. And I watched these guys all open up their wallets and say, okay, there's something happening here it needs to be bigger. This is something that we need to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know I was going to be dealing with as much grief as I am. I just thought I was going to go help families get better. I thought I was just going to go, that's a stranger over there. I'm going to put them through college so they can be a thriving member of their community. I didn't know it was going to be, and I didn't know the other stuff that was going to happen either. I mean, there's yin and yang, boy. If I got to deal with grief, I have laughed so hard I've fallen off my chair when I'm hanging out with these Gold Star families. Sometimes it works the other way too. Yeah. There's a great deal of joy that we have to deal with. Oh, and then there's the other weird stuff that happens too. The stuff like, I get to talk about guardian angels. That's what I call them. I call them my guardian angels. I have a weird job. I ride a motorcycle. Riding a motorcycle all by itself is considered a dangerous activity. It's really not. I mean, it's only as dangerous as you make it. Right. Driving a car is a dangerous activity too, but without getting into that diatribe. So it's considered a dangerous activity but I have so many guardian angels taking care of me. And I know I have guardian angels taking care of me because you know what? A little over 2 years ago, I bumped into a deer while I was riding my motorcycle. I was on mile number 598 on a 600-mile day, and it was pitch dark. It was black. It was nighttime, as nighttime gets. Deer ran out in front of me. I was going 70 miles an hour, and I hit that deer. Okay, let's think about this for just a minute or two. I'm on a motorcycle, and I hit a 250-pound deer. Maybe it was a 300-pound deer. I don't know. At 70 miles an hour. You're not supposed to live through that.
No.
And you're certainly not supposed to go through it without crashing. I didn't even put the bike down. I kept right on going. You can't tell me I don't have guardian angels taking care of me.
So what happened to the deer?
I think I split it in half. I think. I honestly don't know because I didn't stop. I didn't stop to see what happened with the deer. And all I saw was the deer's rib cage hit the headlight. That's all I saw was that little bit of impact because it was so dark. So I saw the deer's rib cage hit the headlight, and I kept on driving. I got to the hotel. I grabbed my bag and went inside the hotel. Didn't even look at the bike. And went in, checked in, called my wife, said, yeah, I had a little run-in with the deer, but everything's good. Nothing to worry about. And waited till the next morning when the sun was out. Then I went out and turned on my little video camera with my telephone and, well, let's take a look at the deer, or let's take a look at the bike. And I found chunks of fur around this, that, and the other thing. All the lights are broken off the front. The forks are broken. I don't know how familiar you are with motorcycle, the mechanics of a motorcycle, but it's a big cruiser, right? It's a big touring motorcycle. So it had an engine roll cage, which is a steel tube that kind of goes around the engine to protect the engine if the motorcycle falls over. That was bent on both sides of the motorcycle.
Jesus.
The frame was bent also. So, the motorcycle was gone. It was toast. There was no saving that. But one of the things I noticed was that, it's a big touring motorcycle. It has a great big, huge backrest for my passenger.
Mm-hmm.
Even has armrests. So, my wife has fallen asleep on the back of the motorcycle more than once. So, because she can't fall off. The armrest will hold her in place, right? So she can't fall off. So I'm looking at the backrest, and it's all filled with feces. Well, that part of him was empty. That part of him was empty. So and I found little pieces of fur here and there, and the headlight was still intact. So the headlight was still illuminated, but it was bent down, so it was shining straight down at the ground. My spotlights are broken off. My blinkers are broken off. That was a nasty mess.
Yeah.
Incidentally, I'm still waiting for the check from Geico because that's who I had my insurance with. They've been denying the claim for 2.5 years.
Wow.
So once again, how fair is life?
We talked about that, right? Life in my world, life is not fair or unfair. Life is just life, right?
Right. Right.
And what I find is that we as human beings, we put so many expectations on life that sometimes when we do not reach those expectations, we have to point our finger at life and go, "Oh, this was unfair," and this, that, and another. I go, "No, life is honest.
Yeah.
Life never promised you that. It was
right.
you that promised yourself that." And so,
right.
if you're going to do that, then take accountability and figure out a different way to do something. That's the beautiful part about it, right? Life says if you want it, you can get it, but you're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to put in some work to go and do it, right? Well,
that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, that's what we're all hoping for, right?
Right.
It leads me to a really, really, like, curious question. How do you deal with the grief that you carry from other people? Because we've talked about that, right? And that grief can get heavy. And you're driving around. You've met almost 600 people, Gold Star families and things like that. How do you deal with the grief that you carry away with that?
Incidentally, a little anecdote here. I only count the Gold Star families. I don't count the funerals I go to because he was my best friend in high school, and he's gone now. Or that was my father. He's gone now, and he didn't serve in the military. And there's plenty enough grief without going to look for more.
All right.
But yeah, so I don't count all of those guys. And I'll tell you, I wrote about it in the book.
Yes, yes.
I have to plug the book because when somebody buys a copy of the book, that's $20 that goes to the Gold Star Ride Foundation.
Yes, most definitely, most definitely.
And I wrote about it briefly in the book. When I first started the Gold Star Ride Foundation, I put the word out that I was going to ride motorcycle around to take care of Gold Star families. And Gold Star families, when they hear about this, they get like all excited, like, holy cow, there's somebody who knows me. There's somebody who remembers what I've been through. And they reach out to me because they always have to make first contact. We never, ever make first contact with the Gold Star family. So I was working on planning this first ride. The first ride that I did, I ended up averaging 307 miles a day, 7 days a week for 8 solid weeks. So I'm on the motorcycle for 56 days straight. I mean, it took an incredible amount of planning. Incidentally, we talked about this briefly a little bit. What happens when you make plans? Yeah. I planned this great big 2-month-long ride out, and I had every stop planned, and I knew where I was going to get gas, and I knew where the hotels were, and I knew where the Gold Star families were, and I knew where everything was. And that plan went out the window by lunchtime on the first day. No more plan. Now we're just winging it.
Yeah.
But when I was busy making the plan and the Gold Star families were reaching out to me, they would call me and tell me their story. And here's me. Hi, this is Tony from the Gold Star Ride Foundation.
Yeah.
Hi, let me tell you about my son. He was the greatest kid in the world. He played junior high football and high school football. He was liked by everybody, and the Iraqis shot him in the head. Hi, let me tell you about my daughter. She was a great kid. She was 19 years old, and her Humvee rolled over, and she was killed in the Marine Corps. Hi, let me tell you about my dad. He was the greatest guy in the whole wide world. He was 38. He didn't have to go back for another tour, but he couldn't leave his guys behind. Let me tell you about my son. I'm a single mother, and I only had one child, and my son was shot by a sniper in the leg, which didn't kill him, but by the time they got him to the hospital, he had bled out and he died. The good news is he signed up as an organ donor, and all of his organs were harvested, and he saved a whole bunch of people's lives. There was a 59-year-old woman with heart disease in Chicago. She got the heart of a 19-year-old Army Ranger. We're pretty sure she's going to live to be 205. So you get it all. And the phone calls would not stop. They would not stop. Let me tell you about what happened to my son. He was riding in the car and his wife was driving, and they were going down the freeway, and he decided he'd lived his life enough. Unbuckled his seatbelt, opened the door, and jumped out of the car at 70 miles an hour. These are the stories are endless. I've met with 540 Gold Star families. There's 540 Gold Star stories. And I'm just telling you the little teeny tiny ones that I remember real quick for this conversation.
Right.
But I was going through that, planning the ride, listening to these phone call after phone call, email after email of all these Gold Star families that wanted me to come and visit. And my wife came to me and she said, I don't know what you're doing, but you ain't going to do it no more. I said, what do you mean? She said, your hair's turning white. You got bags under your eyes. You got wrinkles where you're not supposed to have wrinkles. And you're losing weight. You can't do this anymore. And I said, oh, I see what you're talking about. Okay. So there's a little bit too much grief that I'm trying to swallow and hold in on my own.
Right.
So I made it a point to, okay, if I've talked to 3 Gold Star families on Tuesday, the 4th one has to wait till Wednesday. And the other thing I started doing is I started getting on my motorcycle a lot more. I was practicing because I wasn't going to leave on that ride until, what did I leave? July 2nd? July 2nd, 2018, I started the motorcycle ride, and I got back at the end of August. Well, I'm taking these phone calls from Gold Star families in March, April, and May. Those are riding days. Even up
Yeah.
here in Minnesota, those are riding days.
Okay.
So every day ended with a 1-hour motorcycle ride. And that 1-hour motorcycle ride made a huge difference for me. That doesn't mean it's going to make a huge difference for you,
Mhm.
but it does. It makes a huge difference for me. And every person is a little bit different, and every person needs to find their magic bullet. You have to use that metaphor carefully. But everybody has to find their magic recipe that allows them to deal with the grief that they've been handed.
Right. Yes.
So this is, I'm talking about grief that had a physical effect on me that wasn't mine, that came from people I didn't know.
Right.
But it still had a very physical effect on me. And I knew that the motorcycle would help, and the motorcycle does help. I still ride all the time. And a month and a half ago, I almost died. Anyway, I was walking around like I was on eggshells after that cardiac event. Can we just call it that? After that cardiac event, I was walking around like I was walking on eggshells. It's like, can I do this? Can I not? Anyway, after about 2.5 weeks of that, I got on a motorcycle, went for a 100-mile motorcycle ride. Got off the motorcycle, and I ain't had a problem since. We're good now. That's a very therapeutic and magic thing for me.
Yeah, I think you and I talked about that too. Because and the reason why I asked, because we all at some point, we are carriers of those griefs, right? You know what I'm saying? But also, as for me, I'm a student of it, right? And it's always it always fascinates me how others interact with it, right? You know what I'm saying? Once they figure it out. Because grief is just one of those things. If you could be a student of it, it could teach you so much. One of the tricks that I developed was I learned to, when I'm around families or from around other men and things like that, and they're pouring it on me, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I realize that I'm empty, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I go in empty. I always say, look, whatever's inside of me, I need you to take out of me. So I need to be an empty vessel to take this away from them so I can release it, because some people don't know how to release it. And so I become that vessel. So afterwards, because in the beginning, I used to get tired and it's like, man, what is going on? And I wouldn't be feeling too well. And something really just made sense to me. Something said, hey, you're out of that moment. That's not yours. Take the information, but put that back out there so I can give them a solution to help them, right?
And you don't always have to have the solution either. Sometimes the solution is just
not for me to have the solution.
Right. Sometimes the solution is just listening to somebody talk.
Right.
And this is one of the things I learned when I lost my kids. It's the best way to deal with grief generally is to find somebody else who's grieving and help that person. And what happens is you help yourself in the process. Right. And I've said this too in other podcasts that I've been on and on different radio interviews and different things that I've done. I've said, I've come to learn that, people bend over backwards to thank me for the work that I do for Gold Star families. What they don't realize is it's actually kind of selfish on my part, because it helps me get through an awful lot of my own stuff, my own whatever it is that I have to deal with on any given day. And on any given day, any of us might be handed anything.
Right.
But when I go help somebody else, that's helping me with my own stuff.
Right. And that's what I mean by that. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah. Like, everybody has a technique. Mine's, like as I was mentioning, mine's is that, when I'm in that moment, I leave out of there, I realize that I'm extracting information from it. So, my goal is to always be better at what I do in this thing called the grief field, to be a better grief practitioner, to learn how to pivot And through that,
Oh,
I
sure.
understand, right? It's part of my healing. Everybody's different, like yours is motorcycles. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
So mine's, I'm like in there, and so, but when I leave, I always say, hey, let me learn from this so I can be better, as I move forward, right? But now, once I'm done with it, before I even go into the next moment, I go, hey, I release this to you, right? I released it to you and I
Yep.
let it go. Because whatever comes back to that family or that individual, I realized that it was for them. They just didn't need to carry the burden of the hurt, right? You know what I'm saying? They just needed to understand how to release that burden. So again, everybody's different. It's the
Yeah.
same concept. Like you learn how to take it away from them, but how to get something back to them in return. Like laughter. Like you said, I'm just like you. Look, man, there's been times I've been sitting in rooms with people, and we have a conversation, and I love the fact that they share their memories with me, because once we get into there, again, I'm a curious guy. I just open
Uh-huh.
up the doors, and sometimes, man, we be laying down on the floor just dying. They're like, "Oh my God, I didn't think about that for so long," right? And it's just to see them in the process, the beginning process of that healing. I find that
Yeah.
to be amazing, right? And to be able to even have a part
I
in
just
that,
got to.
it's just like, wow.
I just got to demonstrate the humor since we started talking about it. See, there's a handful of folks out there that are watching this thing going, okay, what does that say in his head? Oh, it says if they're civilians, they're going to say my
What is that?
DD 214. Okay,
See,
we'll let you in on the joke. Okay, veterans know this because every veteran who just saw that is still laughing. They're still laughing.
yeah, probably.
We at the Gold. That was one of the ways that we raise money, right? We sell those hats, we sell the patches to people because it's funny. A DD 214, which is the correct way to pronounce that, DD 214. That's military discharge papers. That means that you prove that they prove that you served in the military. DD 214. MBA is a college education. So the patch says my proof that I served in the military will outdo your college education every day.
Yeah.
That's basically what the patch translates to. But military people, veterans, when they see that, they're just going, "Oh, that's just hilarious." And I tell you what, I've been in different locations where I had one guy come up to me. He's like 24, 25 years old. And he's like, man, you can't say that because I've been working my butt off for my master's degree. So, yeah, that's too bad. I worked my butt off for my master's degree too. You know what it means? It means I can kick my own ass.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, man.
I can kick my own ass. That's right. Anyway, everybody has their own journey that they have to go on. The point of the matter is that I was trying to bring up or trying to reinforce is the idea that we have to be willing to laugh when something's funny.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to laugh. Veterans have as a rule, I won't say this is true for all veterans, but veterans have a little bit darker sense of humor. It's a little bit harder for civilians to kind of follow along with it all of the time. A lot of veterans just kind of shut down and, okay, I'm not going to tell that joke because I know I'm going to offend you.
Yes.
That happens a lot. That's very unfortunate. But we have to be, again, we're talking about veterans because the Gold Star Ride Foundation takes care of veterans that lost, or excuse me, veterans' families after the veteran is killed. But yeah, and I have made it a point to, when I go visit these families, we're gonna sit there and talk about whatever, what color, how come it is that the sky is blue and the earth is green, so you don't know where to stop mowing. We're going to talk about whatever comes up. We're going to talk about how good. I went someplace once and I had fried chicken. Pretty sure, yeah, that was it. It was fried chicken. I looked at that in the menu and I thought, what a ridiculous food item. I had never heard of fried chicken. That doesn't exist where I live. Well, I was someplace special and they had fried chicken. I said, I'm going to eat that. Turned out it was really good.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're going to have, this is the way the conversations are going to go. We don't have a list of, let me ask this question, this question, this question, this
Right.
question. We're going to say, we're going to have we're just going to have a conversation.
Yes.
We're just going to talk, and we're just going to talk about whatever comes up. And I personally, I go in with this mantra, this mentality. I'm not leaving till I make them laugh.
Yeah.
We're there talking about, you know, we're there talking about grief, but I'm not going to leave until I make them laugh. And out of 540, there have been two. There have been two that I could not make laugh. And I tell you what, you can still look this up. One of them, I was in East Texas. I stopped in East Texas to meet a group of Gold Stars. I think there were 5 Gold Star families I was meeting all at once. All of them were moms, except one guy. One guy was a Gold Star dad, and he was married to the Gold Star mom that was there, right? So there was 5 families, and one of them was the couple. And I was trying to get everybody involved in the conversation. It was, I mean, really, really early in our visit. Hi, I'm Tony. I hadn't even figured out all their names yet. But I turned to that Gold Star dad, and I said something along the lines of, what was your son like in junior high? Because I don't want to talk about their death. I want to talk about their life.
Right. Right.
Right. So, I mean, that's just me. I want to, let's hone in on the stuff that we really need to remember. We really need to remember their life. So I asked him, what was he like in junior high? And this guy burst into tears. And I don't mean whimpering steadily with tears. I mean, this guy, his body was convulsing. He was crying like, and it had been 3 years since his son was killed.
Mm-hmm.
3 years. And this is still how he managed to cry. And he turned around and walked away. He walked away from the rest of the group. And I looked around at the other Gold Star moms that were there, and they're all like, I don't know what to do. And his wife was standing right there and said, he's been like this since we got the news. And I said, oh, well, you guys hang here for a minute. And I went over and talked to him. And one of the things that it's kind of my go-to. This grief that you're going through is yours. You get to own it. Nobody can ever take it away from you. How we handle it is another conversation. But let's start with the ownership. And somehow when people are given ownership of something, they feel a little teeny tiny bit more empowered. Anyway, that's been my experience. Honest, I might have a master's degree, but I never read that in any college textbook.
Oh no, dude, that stuff there, you can't read that. Like no one can teach you that, right? It's one of those things. It's our own personal experience that
Right.
gets us to that point, right? Because you have to practice what you preach. I'm a firm believer in that. Practice what you preach. So if you got to own it, that means that you, at some point, you had to own yours too, and that takes time.
Yeah.
It takes an individual that truly understands how to navigate that, right? You know, and I'm right there with you. Like when I'm in that space, I'm a visitor. I tell people, like, I don't have the answers for you, but I'm going to visit with you until you're ready to go ahead and start talking. And once it starts, I'm just like, well, share, because I'm right there with you. Share the life.
Yeah, one of the things that I forgot where my train of thought was going. Well, getting back to the story of that guy, he was one that I couldn't make him smile, but the visit was a tough one. One of the toughest ever. And when we finally broke ranks and everybody went their separate ways, I got out my phone and I did one of those. I do a lot of 30-second updates.
Yeah.
Right? I'll turn on my video camera and I'll do a selfie and I'll talk for 30 seconds and I'll post it on social media. So you can go find this selfie where I'm talking in the dark because the sun had gone down by the time we broke ranks. And you can see I had just tried everything I could with this man to help him find a way. Oh, that was the other point I was trying to make. I'd say to him, I'm just here to help you. You got to carry the load forever. It'll never go away. You got to carry that extra weight because somebody in your family is gone. I'm just here to help you carry it for a few minutes. That's kind of my mission. I'm just here to help you carry it. But if you go find that video, you can see in my face the challenge that I had in dealing with that guy. And I've seen him twice since then. A year later, I went back and met with him again. And then we actually, there was some, it was a beautiful thing. In southern Minnesota, we found a Gold Star mom whose son was in the Marine Corps, died the first week of June. And come to find out that she was a telephone friend of somebody who died the last week of June the same year. They died 3 weeks apart from each other. And they were both Marines. They served in the same unit. And come to find out that this Gold Star dad that I was just telling you about, him and his wife was the telephone friend of the woman from Minnesota. They're from Texas. So when we did our ride, we had 75 motorcycles, went 100 miles down the road to visit with the Gold Star mom in Minnesota. And actually we had 3 Gold Stars that day, but we had 75 people. We flew them up from Texas so they could meet in person for the first time. They'd been best friends for 3 years.
Wow.
So yeah, we get to do some stuff we get to do some really great stuff.
Yeah, man.
We get to do some really, really great stuff. When I first started this and said, I'm going to go help people who lost somebody in the military, I couldn't imagine any of this.
Yeah.
I couldn't put that together.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an imaginative guy. Look, I wrote a book.
I know.
But I
we'll
don't have enough of an imagination to come up with these stories and these life experiences that I've had.
Most definitely, man. Most definitely. You know, and you know, because as we begin to wrap this up, unfortunately, I got another call directly after this one. You know what I'm saying? And I love talking with you, man. And you already know this. You already know this, man.
You're going to be one of my stops when let's see, where are you?
I'm
somewhere in Rocky Mountains, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to riding my motorcycle through the Rocky Mountains.
Man, let me know, please. You know, so I don't have a motorcycle, but damn it, I'll rent one just to go riding with you and take you to some amazing places, man. Especially when the weather starts to get nice out here, man. Go to some amazing places. I look, I really
since
do.
you've reminded me of going through the Rocky Mountains. I went to Loveland, Colorado, north of Denver.
I'm not too far from Loveland.
That's right. I met 2 sisters and a brother, and they had lost their older brother. They had lost their older brother in Vietnam 55 years before I arrived. 55 years before I arrived. And I get there and we're introductions and this is, how are you? It's nice to meet you. Great to meet you. Great to meet you. Great to meet you. Great to meet everybody. Within about 4 or 5 minutes, all 3 of these siblings were reacting as if I was the one who told them their brother was dead. They all had tears just streaming down their face. And they had stories of how he used to, they were from Wyoming. They grew up in Wyoming on a ranch. And their older brother used to break horses. So, I mean, and they were telling me story after story. And then they told me the heroic deeds he did in the last 20 or 30 minutes of his life. And it was just amazing to me. 55 years later, it was like I was the one who was breaking the news to him. Right. Grief nobody really knows the shelf life of grief.
Right. Well, there's no, I want to add to that because there's no shelf life, man. There's no shelf. I have one of my clients. He lost his brother 58 years ago. He never really dealt with it, right? He never really dealt with it. And his whole entire life, this man has been walking around sick and angry. Like his wife, I talked to his wife was like, yeah, he has an anger problem. And we sat down in one session, we sat down with them. And here I am, this young guy, because this was probably about when I first started this. So I'm still green behind the ears, right? But my gift is so powerful that, what I'm saying? All I have to do is, a lot of times just be in the same room with these individuals. And I'm in a room with this guy, and it's funny how we met. So we met at an event, a fundraiser that I was putting on, my very first fundraiser that I was putting on. And he comes there and we got cameras because we showing everything, right? Because we got games out there for the kids, we cooking. you know what I'm saying, and everything else. And he comes out there and he was mad because we were filming. He's like, these are all victims out here. You shouldn't be doing this and this, that, and another. And I was like, sir, I was like, no, there's no victims here. I was like, if you notice, we got children out here, we got food and this, that, and that's how we met. So then he came because he signed up for my group. He came through and erased his name off the group. He remembered the day that I was doing the group, showed up to the group, and he sat there, and we was in the room, and I got probably 15, 16 guys in this room. I mean, I got the burliest of them, you know what I'm saying, the bikers. I mean, I got them in there, right? This guy comes in, he's a short, scrawny dude, got his long little goatee, and he's just looking around, and he got to listening to these dudes, man. And I'm watching, you know what I'm saying? I'm watching, I'm not letting him know that I'm watching, but I'm watching him. And he sat there, he put his hands on his head like this, man, and just started bawling. And that was the beginning of that relationship right there. To this day, me and this man sit around and talk. He goes, I don't know why I feel the way that I do. He goes, I lost my brother 50-some years ago. I don't know why I'm crying right now. I thought I let him go. And everybody turned around to him. The biggest, the burliest of the dudes. He was a biker. He was, you know what I'm saying, ex gang biker, right? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to put the organization out there, but you can say he had a big name, right? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
He was one of the biggest biker gangs probably in the world. And he turned around to that dude. He goes, man, in here, you go ahead and let that out. Ain't nobody gonna judge you. And if they do, I'm gonna put this on. And it was a wrap. I'm telling you, Tony, it was a wrap. I said, yep, and this is where it starts, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's no shelf life on it. This is what I've been trying to explain to people. Like, you will have moments in your journey where you may be reminded of that first time.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes it can be 30 years later, right, and you're walking through the grocery store looking for a carton of milk, and you reach for the refrigerator door, and it will remind you of somebody that you lost 30 years ago, and you'll be down on one knee crying at the grocery store, and nobody will understand why, particularly you.
It's part of it. It's part of it. And as you know, like I said, man, I'm always going to be a student of this thing. I don't pretend to know everything, and nor do I want to know everything. I always want to remain curious and be able to be open-minded to learn everything that I possibly can. Again, just to be a better servant, just to be able to be in that space with those individuals with empathy and deep understanding, and you know, to just share that space with them authentically, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I can give back something to them, you know, from what I carry inside of me. And that's, to me, that is the biggest gift, to be able to serve those and to know individuals like yourself that are out here serving too. And you have no idea how great that makes me feel to know that there's people out there just doing amazing things, right? You know what I'm saying? And it'd be just to know that you're there. It's like, yeah, I know someone, right? I know someone that does this, you know, and so that man is humbling, because, as they say, man, most of the stuff that we do, we never see coming.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah, we never see coming, right? Grief has a strange way of just putting things in your lap and going, here you go. Here you go. And then being creative. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I don't want to talk about this as we begin to wrap this up, because again, I just messaged my other guy and everything. So before I let you go, brother, you know what I'm saying? First and foremost, I want to say thank you. And we have to do this again, you know, and don't forget to send over your information in the channel.
I'm thinking, didn't we just start?
It seems like it does, don't it? Right? You know,
this one went really fast. Yeah.
I told you this is how it goes. I told you this is how it goes, right? You know what I'm saying?
Maybe that would take longer if I showed up with a script.
Yeah. But tell people how they can find you, man.
goldstarride.org. Gold Star, here, you know what? We sell these patches on our website too. We the downside is, we got to raise a couple of bucks in order to stay on the road. So this patch says I gave. Did you? You can get those at our website. You get the DD214 patch at the website. You get the book at the website, and keep your fingers crossed that I might find a month where I can write the sequel.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Because I wrote this one after 44 families. Now we're up to 540 families. So guess how thick the sequel is going to have to be.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm gonna have to give me a copy just so I can just stay up on your adventures. I think that's amazing.
But you can follow us on social media also. Gold Star Ride on Instagram, X, Tumblr, Facebook. There's a couple of them. Anyway, the downside is that all of that stuff is stuff that I physically have to do. I have to grab my phone and make it happen.
Yeah.
Or I have to get on my laptop and make it happen. So we're not as up on it as we should be.
Yeah.
But right now you could sit and watch videos on our website and our social media sites for weeks without ever changing the channel. We got 6 years worth of videos up now. So you can meet a lot of the families. You can meet a lot. You can see a lot of what we do and how it works. And we kind of open the door and let you in, if that's what you're interested in. If you want to support the mission, we can take anything with a title. That means boats, motorhomes, motorcycles, automobiles, real estate. If there's a piece of paper that proves that you own it, you can donate it to our charity. Or you can, if you're so inclined, you can also donate stock. And I was just telling somebody about this earlier. We've been able to accept stock as a donation for a couple of years. If you bought McDonald's stock in 1960 when it cost 50 cents a share, and you bought 100 shares for $50, and today that's worth $72 billion, and you go to sell it, you're going to have to pay a great deal of capital gains tax.
Right.
But if you donate it, first of all, you get the deduction for the full value. Second, you do not have to pay any capital gains tax. And third, we get to sell it for its full value. Nice. So that's one of the greatest tax situations available, is to have stock that you own, or if you inherit some stock, maybe your grandpa bought stock at McDonald's in 1952, and now you're going, I can't sell that because capital gains will cost too much. You can donate that and get the full value from it. So anyway, all that stuff is on the website, goldstarride.org.
Nice. Now, one last question before I let you go, brother. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
I do have a superpower. Thank you very much for asking about it. I'm not so sure I like my superpower, but I know I have one. My superpower is invisibility, and I turn it on every time I swing my leg over the seat of my motorcycle.
I love that, man.
That must be why nobody can see me when I'm on that motorcycle.
Well, that damn sure didn't see you.
And I've been saying that for so long, I just don't even know how else to answer the question. If I had a superpower, if I, to give your question the credit it deserves, what would my superpower be? What would I like my superpower to be? I think I would probably turn them all down. I would rather not have a superpower. I would rather not. I would rather not have to deal with the consequences that come with it. What was it that they said in Spider-Man? With great power comes great responsibility. I think I would like to, just avoid that. I mean, I joke around with the invisibility, but I also take it into consideration that for whatever reason, people don't see me. I think it's largely because they're not looking. Right. I played a game with my kids. I told you about my kids, right? My daughter's 20 and my youngest son is going to be 23 in a couple months. Since they were this big, we played a game in the car. Count the motorcycles. So I taught them at a very, very young age to look for motorcycles going down the highway. And I think it's a great game. We should all be teaching it to all our little kids. Look for the motorcycles. There are other games that we play, right? The slug bug. You remember the slug bug?
I do.
So you played that game. Look at this.
We
at each other. We're on different parts of the country, but we both know what a slug bug is.
Oh, yeah.
So we got to change that game just a teeny tiny bit. Say, find the motorcycles. And my daughter at 20, she's a special needs girl, so she's got a learning disability. But even with that, we go down the road. She says, "There's a motorcycle. There's a motorcycle. Saw a motorcycle, Dad. There's a motorcycle." She sees them. She'll probably never drive a car, but well, I mean, aside from when she was little, I put her on my lap. We drove all the time. Let's not tell too many people that. There might have been some laws I was breaking.
Brother, look, I know there was laws that was broken when I was a kid because we didn't have none of that, and we did the same doggone thing.
Oh yeah, put the babies on our lap and let them steer going through town.
Granddad's deuce and a quarter to go pick them up from the shot house, and you know what I'm saying. I mean, that was me. Big old deuce and a quarter. That's how I learned how to drive. Here's the keys, go down here and do this, and then come on back here and come pick me up, right? And so the police used to see me all the time. Now, being a kid, we had no seatbelts, and whenever we went over, they were like, "Just sit your ass there and don't move." So definitely understood that. Definitely understand that, man. And I got one statement I want to give you, man, from the bottom of my heart. I know you said that you would turn down the notion of having a superpower. I'm gonna tell you right now, man, you're a superhero in my book. You're a superhero in so many other people's lives, and I just want to say, man, it's definitely an honor. It's definitely an honor, right?
Well, I feel pretty fortunate that I can do it.
Yeah.
Especially after calling into play all my guardian angels.
And like I said, I definitely understand that, man. So I just wanted to remind you, man, for everyone out there that's probably thinking the same thing, you're definitely a big superhero in the work that you do, man. So important. And everybody, please, what I'm saying, when you send over your information, I'm going to put it in the YouTube channel. I'm going to get on you, like, hey, send that over here to me so I can put it in there, because I definitely want people to know how they can find you and support you, man. And,
hey, I could actually do something here, couldn't I? How's that? I put it right in the comments. Oh, that's a private chat.
Oh, I got it. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I got you.
Oh, I thought I was going to join the chat and get it in there, but
no, I got you. I got you right there.
Wow, we have people making comments in here.
It's
good that I find this out as we're saying our goodbyes.
So I definitely put it in there. Go startride.com.org. People, please go check it out and everything. And with that being said, guys, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys already know we're on a mission to keep bringing you guys daily podcasts with amazing people out here doing amazing things, and they're not only here telling their stories, but they also are here for you as well. Please reach out to them. Get the help and the support that you deserve, right? And you guys already know, listen to the story. They not only talk the talk, but they walk the walk, right? You know what I'm saying? So, guys, take advantage, please. You know what I'm saying? And with that being said, guys, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I'm the host of this podcast. And if this is your first time tuning in, and if you have not already, do me a favor. Head on over to that YouTube channel. You guys see it scrolling around the bottom over there. You know what I'm saying? I have all my social medias up there. Please hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell notification so that you're notified every time that we drop an episode. With that being said, guys, have a fantastic day. I love you always, and thank you for your support and allow me to keep bringing these stories to you guys. And I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Love you. Peace.
Peace.